Hello, welcome back to the Superbone channel. As I said in my Blue Bossa video, that I'd be going through the harmonies I chose for the extra trombones below JJ solos. So this is that video. If you're interested in kind of a deep dive into jazz harmony, I'll try and explain it on a simple level, but also cover some of the more complicated things. So if you're not too sure about all that sort of stuff, listen along, you might learn something. Well, this solo actually by JJ is one of his more simpler solos, and I think it's a really good one to just have a look at what choices he made, but also how he responded to what's happening underneath him by Joe Pass. So without further ado, we'll go through. The first time we hear JJ play just before his solo is the end of Joe Pass's solo. So here it is here. Okay, so firstly, what we see here is I've chosen to just let JJ play the first note by himself. Pretty clearly obvious. It's just following the rhythm of JJ's of Joe Pass's accompaniment as well. And at all times during the solo, because there's only two of them, I really had to stick with the chords that Joe chose. I didn't have to play all of the notes. I also didn't have to choose all the extensions that other people might have chosen. As we see these first two bars, Joe's chucked a little tritone substitution in. The A flat 7 is a tritone substitution for the D minor 7 flat 5. So it leads to a G7. If you don't know what a tritone substitution is, essentially it's any chord you may choose to chuck a chord in that's a tritone away to lead to the next chord. And often what you'll get is chromatic movement. So you can see from the A flat 7 to the G7 is only one semitone apart. So that works really well when you're reharmonizing any sort of chord progression, and only really on a 2-5-1 on a dominant harmony it works well. So that's kind of what's happened here. As I said, I've just sort of taken Joe's rhythm and played along with that. So I do that at times in this harmony. It's an easy choice to make, really, because we don't have a lot of space here. If I tried to make it too complicated, it wouldn't come across as strongly as it has here. So that's what we've had here. Of course, in the last bar of this 4-bar phrase, you might see I've put D minor 7 flat 5. Now, Joe actually plays another A flat 7 here. One of the things that I think is really effective and easy to make a choice on is if someone actually does what Joe's done and plays the A flat 7 instead of the D minor 7 flat 5, you can still play a D minor 7 flat 5 over the top of it. Some of the notes will be a bit crunchier, but the harmony actually exists in the same way. It's the same function of harmony. So layering up that chord, it's not like you're putting a completely unrelated chord on top of it. And of course you could just look at it as extensions of the A flat 7. But to be honest, I just went, well, I'd rather put the D in the bass trombone, and it just made a lot more sense to me. Of course, all of these harmony choices, you could make a billion other choices. So this is just how I heard it and how my brain kind of works. So let's go on to the next little section. So what you can see here is I've left a bit more space. At the start of a solo, you really want to hero the soloist. So we've just done a really simple third below harmony in the second trombone there. When we get to JJ's long note, which for the last two bars of this section, he just sits around the F. That's my cue to go, right, let's put the third and bass trombone in here, and let's get them to do something interesting. So what we have here is a little bit of voice leading with the third trombone, and the bass trombone is really just supporting what Joe Pass is doing on the guitar with a little bit of bass line 151. So in that fourth bar there, you can see here Joe's done a really great job of just substituting his chord with a semitone up chord. Super effective. It's only short. He's not sitting on it for a long time. You can sit on it for a long time. But again, my choice is made for me in these parts. I could try and do something more complicated, but Joe's made a really great choice of changing this chord here. Instead of just having the D minor 7 for 2 bars, in that second bar, he can hear that JJ's sitting on that F. So he's like, right, this is my opportunity to do something. So he's done that in the most simple way, because on a guitar, the shape just moves up a fret and then down a fret. Fantastic, nice and easy. So again, takes my choice away really, but it's the smarter choice to make is to harmonize that chord rather than try and do something completely different. Let's move on. Okay, so again, very similar sort of thing. I've got third and bass trombone are following what the guitar's doing. One of the things that we really sometimes miss as a trombone player is the importance of a long note. I don't know about you guys, but every time I see a part which has a lot of long notes in it, I just kind of switch off. Oh, this is a bit boring. But often in these type of recordings, I feel like we can put those long notes in, and it's another texture that, like the guitar plays a note and it decays, but ours doesn't. So it does have a different sound. So don't be afraid to use long notes. But I would say they've got to be in a place where they make sense. So in this case, it's the start of a new phrase, and it's really just grounding that G7, and I haven't tried to do anything crazy with it. It's the root and the third, the G and the B. So again, the second trombone just harmonizing with JJ down a third, literally down a third, until we get to the third bar, and Joe Pass does a great little voice leading from the C minor 7 to the C minor 6. So I really wanted to pop in that 6. I think that works really well. And also the third and fourth bar here, bar 79 and 78 and 80, I went, well, there is space there for a bass trombone line, which I always like to feed my players. Always feed your guys. If I'm playing third trombone and I'm playing absolute rubbish harmonies and nothing interesting and no melodic interest, I switch off. So all of my arrangements, I look at it as an individual player. Will I enjoy that? Because I don't think it's that hard to find little nuggets of good writing for everyone in any ensemble. I don't think anyone should have to sort of come away from that going, well, I played 3 notes in that entire arrangement. It just gets a bit boring, and I think it makes for less dynamic music. So here, the bass trombone, boom, bodo, 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 boom. Okay, so, and again, Joe Pass has been, a really good guitarist here. He's giving us a tritone sub into the next chord, which is an E flat. So we'll play the next bit. Okay, I don't actually have a lot to say in this bit other than tritone sub again. So tritone sub, tritone sub. As you can see, the A to the A flat 11. So A7, tritone substitute of the E flat minor 7. Again, a pretty simple way to harmonize this stuff. And actually, in this part of JJ's solo, he actually just plays the melody. And I didn't feel like we needed to play anything else but to just support what he was doing. So third and bass playing nice chords. Second trombone actually goes above JJ here. The harmony below wouldn't have been as effective. So as long as when you're playing above a soloist that you balance out, that you're just the top voice but you're not the dominant voice. So that's really important to be aware of as an instrumentalist, is that if we're playing something and we think, oh geez, we have a harmony here but not the melody, make sure you can always hear the melody. So I mixed it quite generously towards JJ throughout the whole thing anyway, just to reiterate that would be what you would want to hear, is the JJ solo. And again, the bass trombone just supporting what Joe Pass is doing. It's one of those moments in the solo where we can just rest and let the music breathe. Not everything has to be crazy. Okay, so this is another place where we're letting the bass trombonist have a little bit of interest. Some bass trombonists might look at this and go, whoa, why are you making this hard for me? I'm not one of those people. If you throw something hard at me, it's a challenge, and I'd gladly accept it. So that's what we're doing here. JJ, in those last two bars here, is playing the same note. Well, now, that takes my cue as a arranger. When someone's playing the same note over moving chords, the below parts have to have that movement. And I saw an opportunity there for the bass trombone to do that little recurring figure. Ba-ba-da-ba, ba-ba-da-da. So I really think that works really well and showcases the bass trombone, gives it a bit more interest underneath what's happening with JJ. Actually, the funniest thing about recording this is that you think, oh, he's just playing da-da-da-da, 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 da-da-da-da. But the third one, he cuts short for some reason. I think it sounds pretty jazzy, so obviously he's just using his intuition and knowledge, and he's just making the choice to make that third one just pop out a bit. But recording it was actually quite tricky, because you want to just go. So I had to redo that a couple of times. The harmony underneath JJ here is actually a bit more open. It's actually called a drop 2 voicing. So as you can see, if you would go down in bar 85 from JJ's A flat, the next note underneath that in a D minor flat 5 harmony would be an F. So I've actually taken that F and dropped it down into the bass trombone. So it's very common in saxophone harmony. You'll often have the drop 2 voicing in the baritone. We'll have the second voice underneath. And so what you'll have is the second tenor player will be playing almost a tone above the baritone most of the time, and it gets a really crunchy harmony sound, but it's fantastic. Some people will leave that octave double off, so the first alto and the second tenor playing in octaves. But the drop 2 voicing is actually a really familiar sound. You'll find it in loads and loads of big band charts, and it's a really effective way of taking close harmony, everything's in thirds, and just expanding it a little bit, gives it a bit more room to breathe, and works really well in this instant. Okay, so let's just stop there, and nothing too much to say here. I wrote a couple of notes. So here, where are we? 89. Yeah, so there's movement under JJ again. We can see in the previous 2 bars there was the Fs, and he doesn't do too much more. F, E flat, C, 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 C. So I always want to make sure that I'm making it a bit interesting underneath notes that don't change. And Joe's not actually doing anything much on the guitar, so I've kind of just harmonized that second and third and fourth beats with a little bit of tension. So you can see they're all a tone apart on the second beat, and then a little bit of separation, but have moved to a different note in the scale there. And you can see I've put an A flat in the third trombone, and then later on in the bar, the second trombone has the A. So we have a little bit of kind of chromatic movement within the bar. We've got some B flats, some A flats, and then it just up to the A. I think it makes a really nice sound when you're playing a sixth over a minor chord. That major sixth note is really popular. I use it too many times in my solos when I'm playing a minor blues, but I just love it, so I do it. And again, of course, I think in this instance, Joe has actually gone down to the C minor 6. I just didn't notate it early in that transcription. But it is actually in that second bar a C minor 6. So it does follow what Joe's doing. And you can see in the second bar there, I've harmonized JJ's line as a C minor 6. So, I mean, there's sometimes the choice is easy. And you shouldn't do too much more than just harmonizing thirds all below the melody. And if that works, then why not go with it? So again, the chord changes in the third bar, and we get a slightly different note in the bass trombone, but that's about it. And of course, towards the end of the bar, I'm like, another opportunity for the bass trombone to shine with a little bit of 5-1 kind of thing that obviously the bass trombone is really good at. So let's move on. So I've got a really good opportunity here in the first two bars. I could have gone above with one of the trombonists, but it feels like JJ's really descending and getting softer. And I thought if I put above, it really it takes away from JJ's line. So what I've had to do here is have quite close voicings. Again, just in thirds, but it means that it gets a bit muddy. One of the things as an arranger, I was in Birmingham this weekend for the British Trombone Festival, which was amazing. And I went to a masterclass with, or a talk with Callum Owl, who's an incredible arranger. And he was talking about the characteristics of a trombone. And of course, one of the problems with our voicings is that the lower you get, the muddier it gets. So it does get a bit muddy here. But, you know, I hesitated to go above. I could have dropped a voice out, but we're knee deep in this arrangement, so I was a bit reluctant to leave someone out. I think mud is okay in small doses, as long as it gets opened up again, which you do see later here. So in that third bar, we have a moment where JJ takes a break, and I can let the arrangement take the lead here. So just a little cascading thing. Ba ba da ba ba. So that's really simple to notate again. Make a line and then break it up. So the bass trombone plays the first note, the third trombone plays the first two, you know, and so on. And it just makes this nice little chord, arpeggiated chord. If you're playing piano, it'll be boom, boom, boom. And the harmony then opens up quite a bit above that. So, and again, towards the end of the bar, the bass trombone following Joe's descending bass line. You can see a really simple minor chord, no extensions, harmony at the end of that phrase. Yeah, don't be afraid to just do minor chords. There's plenty of room in jazz for extensions. So I think sometimes we use them a bit too much. I think I use them a bit too much, because I gravitate to, oh, that's tricky, I'll use that. But actually, I think sometimes simplicity is stronger and much more effective. So. Okay, this is a cool bit. So we've gone the entire solo so far without having any unison. So first two bars I've gone, you know what, Joe has done some really interesting substitutions here. This chromatic movement, geez, you know, it's complicated. I literally went, Joe Pass has chosen the right chords there and harmonized exactly what he did. Nothing too crazy. The bass bone is playing the bass note Joe's playing, so we don't get too much crunch. And we've opened up the voicings over the top of that. Really consonant kind of voicings, you know, lots of space in between them. And actually, you know, mostly fifths and thirds. We get to third bar, and I'm like, JJ really hits that ba-da-da really hard, and I'm like, that's a unison line. There's no need to harmonize that. Let's bring it out of the pocket. Anytime you have more than one trombone or voice playing in unison, it's so strong. And in this case, we've gone a lot of harmony, a lot of harmony, a lot of harmony, ba-da-ba, unison. Fantastic. It's a really strong message. And then immediately JJ plays the same notes up an octave, and I'm like, boom, massive lush harmony. Now, this is an interesting voicing here. You can see I've dropped to the voicing, but so yeah, the bass trombone's got that G flat underneath the B flat, but obviously down an octave. But the second and third trombone are crunchy. So we've got a lot of space between the first and the second voice, hardly any between the second and third, and then again a big space between the bottom. And I think it makes a really incredible sound. It actually probably more of a big band sound with only 4 voices that you can get. So experiment with your voices. You know, don't be afraid to have those crunchy elements in the middle of your harmony. Don't be afraid to have big chunks of space between voices, you know. Don't be afraid to really expand the harmonic registers. Okay, so and again, you can see JJ's first bar of this little phrase. JJ's played exactly the same notes again, twice. So I've harmonized. I've done unison for 2 notes, harmonized the third, and then gone to a different harmony because the chord has changed for the 4th phrase of this little fragment, which is a pretty standard kind of movement. We are following the contour of the solo in the second voice, and we're above there because I needed some space, otherwise we're getting a bit too low. But actually if you look at the third beat of 102, we've got contrary motion. So again, you know, you don't have to follow every interval. Oh, I've done a harmony there, I have to continue the harmony the whole way through the piece. You don't. You can do this where parts are moving in different directions, as long as they make sense at points that you want them to make sense. So on the 3.5 beat here, that's where I want to have a G7 sound. JJ's playing my B flat, so he's ruined it in a slight different way. I think I've written G7 flat 9. I believe Joe might be playing an A flat there. Of course, JJ plays the A flat on the 3rd beat as well. So I mean, you get sometimes these extensions. Someone plays a flat 9. Some people might play a sharp 9 there. That's perfectly fine. There is something called an altered chord, which, to be honest, altered chords are always a bit of a mystery for me, so I tend to stay away from them, and I'd like to prescribe my extensions a bit harder than alt, because alt could mean a lot of different things. So yeah, it works. Again, getting back to why are you harmonizing a note in that particular place? And for me, that 3.5 beat note is really important in this line. It's all kind of leading towards it. So I want to have a nice chunky harmony on that is nice and grounded in the chord. Bass trombone plays a G. Fantastic. That's what we want. And back to the C minor 7. I mean, it's actually not that difficult for me to kind of... a lot of it is logic. A lot of it is, oh, that leads there. Oh, that sits really well there. Just go that. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. It's all been done before by other people. Just do what they do as well. Okay, so the next bit is actually harmonized. When we get to long runs of quavers, I tend to do like to follow the contour of the soloist a lot, to be honest. It makes it a bit easier. You can keep the same harmony, and I think it's a nice sound. The trick is actually getting to the next chord with the right notes. So sometimes you have to be a bit more ingenious than just going up and down the scales. So I've got a bit of chromatic movement on that third beat, third and a half beat of 103. So let's move on. JJ's playing this really strong boot up, boot up, boot up, boot up in this bit. So it makes no sense to not play that with him. There was another option I had, which was to use the bass trombone as a counter to that. So it could have done, you know, playing on 2 and 4 really strongly. In the end, I went with this option, but again, you can choose whatever you like. I like to throw it around a bit. Yeah, I might have been a really cool little moment if the bass trombone was doing it. Maybe if I arrange this for big band, I might change that up a bit just for a bit of fun. Let's hear the next bit. Right, so again, I've just harmonized those JJ boot up, but up, but up, but up. Nothing really to see here. That's pretty standard. The only thing to note here is that Joe Pass doesn't play any chords in these 2 bars. I think he might do a little jump in the second bar, but it's mainly a walking bass line. So it gives us a bit of scope to actually harmonize how we want to in this. So I did take a bit of liberty with some of this stuff. You can look through that score there, just pause it and have a look. Analyze what chords I've moved to. Some of this stuff is, I hear that chord there. You might hear something different. But yeah, I tend to follow my ear quite a bit because I think our ear does things subconsciously that our brain doesn't know, and I like to trust that. So in the third and fourth bar here, JJ is playing the same note, same note, same note. So I'm going to follow I've actually follow JJ quite a bit here. The only thing is the second and fourth beats, I'm playing unisons or octaves with JJ. I really wanted to have that ba-yap, bop, bop, bop kind of come out. So again, you know, harmony, unison, harmony, unison, harmony, unison, harmony, unison. Simple concept. Didn't have to make any more choices other than that was what I was going to do there, and then harmonized it. It's really simple. Don't reinvent the wheel. Okay, so JJ's. I really love this little lick, because he just puts in it's a really simple technique of just bow, 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 just falling off and short. Fantastic. Again, I'd be stupid not to use that. I'd be stupid not to just go, oh, well, that harmonizes itself. Let's go with that. So second trombone's above JJ here. I wanted to lighten up the sound a bit for these bows. But yeah, you can see there's a bit more crunch down the bottom there. And again, not anything much more to do here than to just harmonize what JJ is playing in a very simple manner. So don't be afraid to do that. Sorry, just go back a little bit so we can see that. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, the second bar here, JJ. I'm not entirely sure what Joe and JJ had practiced in terms of their changes on this. I don't think the tritone substitution in the second bar is I'm not sure whether they do it in the head as well. I have to go back and check that. But if they do, then JJ's choices on his solo make a lot of sense. At the end of this bar, why would he play a D over an E flat minor if he didn't know the A7 was coming there? Because the A7, if you're going to expand that into its full range and make it an A13, the D is in the 13, or it would be in the 11 chord. So it makes more sense in an A7 context rather than E flat minor context. So the fact that they've done this in a solo leads me to believe that they had planned upon it for their changes to be at this point in the head. It will be E flat minor, A7, A flat, D flat major. In any case, if it's happened by accident, then it's absolute genius, because I've been able to harmonise it really easily. So thanks very much for JJ Johnson for being a genius, or for them to actually planning it. I'm not sure which one is true. The D flat major 9. Now, JJ has turned on all of these. Nature of the trombone is the lower you get, the harder those turns get. I wanted all trombones to be turning, so I put trombone 2 and 3 above JJ here. Yeah, these turns are hard. I really needed to practice these quite a bit, because especially the top one, because you can do 3, 4, but to do 7 of them in a row, I kept playing the top line, and by the 7th, the turns weren't coming out too well. So the recording actually I did for this one, I didn't actually do too many takes, and I didn't move too many notes. I think I changed some timing of some of the scruffier kind of timings that I had recorded. But in the past, I have actually edited some of the notes quite heavily and tuned stuff. I actually didn't do that too much here, because I'd like to continue to try and record on a real level, especially if I'm doing jazz. Jazz is a living art form, and as soon as you record it and then start to fiddle with it, I think it loses some of its authenticity. So that's kind of what's happened here. Bloody love that JJ just went, you know what, it's a really cool line. 2 notes, turn, just keep doing it over the entire chord. Why play any more notes than that? Fantastic. Cool. Right, so again, coming to the end of his solo, nothing more to see here really. I've used in the second bar here, I've chucked some B flats in there. That's a sharp 9 sound. I think it leads really well into it. Again, this is about me more using my ear and saying, if I was playing that second trombone line, what would I improvise? Listen to it a few times. What would I just hear? And I definitely heard that chromatic. Ba-da-ba-ba-dee-da. It's a pretty simple line, but I think it works really well while the harmony is staying quite stable. The last one I want to talk about here is a really useful voicing for any music that's to do with jazz, and that's voicing in fourths. Okay? So JJ's pick the 9th of the chord. Chuck a 4th on top of it, it's the 5th of the chord. If you go down from the 9, you're going to get a 6. Again, love the 6 in a minor. If you go down from the 6, you get a 3rd, right? So 3rd, 6, 9, and the 5, which would be, in this case, a 12, yeah? In fourths. And the quartal voicing, you'll hear it a lot in modular music. Modal music. Getting to the end of this video, words escape me. Modal music. A lot of the cool kind of jazz that Miles Davis was doing. It's got a really funky kind of jazz sound. It's open. Fourths are an open interval. And I just think use them wherever you can as a statement. And this is a statement line. But up. So perfect there. Well, anyway, we've come to the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I hope I haven't bored you. I hope I've made it interesting for you. I just wanted to give you guys a bit of more of a deep dive into it because I really love this stuff. I love doing these arrangements. It really stretches me as an arranger and as a jazz player as well. It really gets into the nuts and bolts of what's happening below the solo and what's happening in the soloist's mind. Why is he choosing that note? So hopefully you've picked out your own kind of takeaways from this. If you have, leave them in the comments below, and we will see you in another Superbone video in the future. Thanks for watching.